All right, everyone, get ready for today's deep dive. We're going to be talking about turning those cool physics simulations you see online into actual apps. You know, the ones you can download on your phone.
Yeah, and the best part is you don't have to be like some coding expert to do this.
No, not at all.
We're going to break down how to take simulations made with something called EjsS and turn them into Android and iOS apps using something called the Ionic framework.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And it looks like we've got some excerpts from a guide to help us do this. It's on the Open Educational Resources, Open Source Physics at Singapore website.
Yeah, they've laid out, it seems like, a pretty clear path for us to follow.
Okay, cool. But before we jump into all that, let's back up for a second.
Okay.
What exactly is EjsS?
EjsS stands for Easy Java JavaScript Simulations.
Okay.
It's basically a tool that lets you create interactive physics simulations.
So you can, like, think of things like simulating, like, planetary motion.
Yeah.
Or a bouncing ball. Even a pendulum swinging.
Yeah, you can actually play around with the parameters, see how the simulation changes in real time.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty neat way to visualize physics concepts.
Oh, I see. So it's like those simulations you see on science websites where you can, like, adjust sliders and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And apparently they're pretty popular on this website.
Yeah.
Based on the tags.
Oh, interesting.
Now, the source material doesn't actually, like, dive too deep into, like, the specifics of EjsS.
Really?
But hey, maybe that's another deep dive for another day.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Okay, so we've got our EjsS simulation all ready to go.
Yeah.
How does this Ionic-y thing come into the picture?
Well, Ionic is the secret sauce that turns our EjsS simulation into a real app.
Okay.
So think of it like this. You know how websites are built with code like JavaScript and HTML?
Yeah.
Well, Ionic lets you take that same code and run it on your phone as an app.
Okay.
It's kind of like a universal translator.
Interesting.
Between the world of websites and apps.
That's actually really clever. So instead of learning like a whole new way to code for apps, I can use like my web development skills to make apps.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah, it opens up app development to like a whole new group of people.
That's awesome.
And that's what's so cool about this guide. It makes app creation like accessible, even if you're not, you know, like a hardcore programmer.
Okay. I'm already feeling more empowered.
Yeah.
So walk me through it. What's the first thing I need to do?
Okay. So the first thing you should do is install some essential programs on your computer.
Okay.
You're going to need Android Studio.
Gotcha.
It's the official tool for building Android apps.
It's kind of like a digital workshop for building Android apps, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then if you want to make iOS apps for, you know, iPhones and iPads, you'll need a Mac computer and a program called Xcode.
Okay.
Which is Apple's development software.
So depending on what type of phone I'm targeting, I need like, you know, the specific tools for that platform. Okay. Makes sense. What's next?
Okay. So next you need to install Cordova and Ionic themselves.
Okay.
This part gets a little more technical, but stick with me.
Okay.
You're going to be using something called the Node.js command line.
Okay.
Which sounds intimidating, but it's just a way to give your computer instructions.
Right.
Using text commands.
Okay.
You'll be using commands like npm install to tell your computer to download and install the necessary software packages.
Command line stuff always seems like a bit mysterious to me.
Yeah.
Is it like, you know, like typing in those secret codes in video games?
Yeah.
To like unlock special features?
It's kind of like that, yeah. Each command tells your computer to do a specific task.
Okay.
And don't worry, the guide provides all the exact commands.
Okay.
You need to just copy and paste them. You don't have to memorize anything.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've installed Android Studio, or Xcode, if I'm on a Mac.
Right.
And I've used the command line to install Cordova and Ionic. What's the next step in this app-making adventure?
Okay, now comes the fun part.
Yeah.
Creating your Ionic project.
Right.
You'll use a command like Ionic start to create a new project folder.
Okay.
And here's where you have some choices to make. Ionic offers different templates like blank, complex list, and a few others.
Okay.
These templates are basically pre-built structures for your app.
Oh, so like choosing a blueprint for a house before you start building.
Yes, precisely. The blank template gives you a clean slate to build your app from scratch.
Okay.
While the complex list template is handy if your app will involve a lot of lists and data, which might be useful for a physics formula app, maybe.
Oh, okay. I see.
You know, you don't have to memorize all the template options right now. The important thing is to understand that they provide a starting point for your app.
Okay, templates. Got it. So
Okay.
I've created my project using a template. What's next?
Now you need to tell Ionic which platforms you want your app to run on Android or iOS or both. You'll use commands like Ionic platform add Android or Ionic platform add iOS to do that.
Gotcha.
It's like telling a chef, I want this dish served on both a plate and a bowl.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these commands work. It's like giving specific instructions to Ionic. So I've set up my project, I've chosen a template, and I've told Ionic which platforms I want to target.
Right.
Now, how do I actually get that EjsS simulation into the app?
That's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
You'll basically copy the files from your EjsS simulation. The ones that make the simulation work, you'll paste them into a specific folder.
Okay.
Within your Ionic project, it's usually called the www folder. Think of it like transplanting the brain of your simulation into the body of your app.
That's a cool way to put it.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm taking the core of the simulation.
Right.
And I'm plugging it into, like, the app structure that Ionic has created.
Exactly. And from here, things start to get really interesting because now you have the power to customize your app.
Ooh, customization. Tell me more. What kind of things can I tweak?
Well, for starters, you can change the app icon.
Yeah.
You know, that little picture that represents your app on the phone's home screen?
Right.
You can also add what's called a splash screen.
Okay.
Which is the image that pops up while the app is loading.
So I can give my app its own, like, unique look and feel.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And there's more. You can tweak various details about your app in different configuration files, like its name, its description, and its version number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's a way to, like, test the app as I'm making all these changes?
You bet.
Cool.
You can use a command like Ionic serve to launch a little test server on your computer. It'll open your app in a web browser, so you can see how it looks and behaves as you make changes.
So it's like having a live preview of my app as I'm working on it.
Exactly. It's like having a live feed of your car's performance as you're tuning it up.
That sounds incredibly handy. So we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
I've installed the necessary software, created my Ionic project, added platform support, integrated my EjsS simulation.
Right.
And even explored, some customization options. What's left on this app building journey?
Well, now that you've built the core of your app, the next big step is deploying it.
Right.
Getting it ready for people to download and use. But that's a whole other adventure, and we'll dive into those details in the next part of our deep dive.
All right. I'm already hooked. Stay tuned, everyone, because things are about to get even more exciting.
It is.
Welcome back, everyone. Last time we walked through the steps of, getting our EjsS physics simulation ready to become a full-blown app using Ionic P.
Right.
It's like we've built the engine and frame of our car. Now we just need to, make it roadworthy.
Yeah, a very apt analogy.
Yeah.
And a crucial part of that is making sure we can handle any bumps in the road.
Oh, okay.
That's where those debugging tips from the source material come in.
Right. The guide mentioned a command called chmod plus X.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's not like some secret cheat code?
Not quite a cheat code, haha, but it can definitely feel like you've unlocked something when you need it.
Okay.
Chmod plus X is a command used on certain operating systems like Mac OS or Linux.
Okay.
It's all about permissions, like giving a file permission to run.
Okay.
Think of it like giving your app the keys to the car so it can actually start.
Oh, okay, I see. So sometimes files need like an extra nudge to do their job.
Yeah.
What about that other command, Ionic resources?
Ah, that one's specifically for iOS apps.
Okay.
Sometimes the images and icons and other bits and pieces that make your app look good can get a bit out of whack.
Yeah.
Ionic resources helps to put them back in order.
Okay.
It's like giving your car a fresh coat of paint and making sure the lights are all working.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are kind of like our emergency tools.
Yeah.
For when things go wrong. But before we veer too far off course here.
Sure.
I want to kind of circle back to those Ionic project templates we talked about earlier.
Okay.
The guide mentioned a bunch of them, like blank complex list and others.
Yeah.
What are kind of the key differences between those?
Yeah, so choosing a template is like deciding what kind of car you want to build.
Okay.
Do you want to build a sporty coupe or a spacious SUV? It all depends on what you want your app to do.
Makes sense.
So the blank template, that's a bare bones starting point. If you want complete control and you're comfortable building things from scratch, that's your option. It's like starting with a chassis and building the entire car yourself.
So for the more adventurous, app builder.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What about complex list? I'm guessing that one's like good for handling lots of information.
Exactly. If your app is going to display like lists of data, like think of a physics formula app that has like a whole catalog of formulas.
Right.
This template has pre-built tools to manage all that information.
Okay.
It's like having built-in shelves and compartments in your car to keep everything organized.
That makes a lot of sense. So the template choice like really depends on the app's purpose.
Right.
But regardless of which template I choose, can I still like customize things like the app icon and the splash screen you mentioned earlier?
Absolutely. Those are key elements that you can customize.
Okay.
No matter what template you use. Remember, your app icon, that's like the logo on your car.
Right.
It's what people see first and what they use to identify it. And then the splash screen, that's that image that flashes up while your app is loading.
It's like the little animation you see on a fancy car's dashboard when you start it up.
Exactly. And just like you'd want your car to look sleek and appealing, you want your app icon and splash screen to be eye-catching.
Right.
And to represent your app well.
Yeah, it's all about creating a good first impression.
Exactly.
Now, we talked about using Ionic Serve to like test the app in a web browser.
Yeah.
Can you remind me how that works?
Sure.
And why it's so useful?
So Ionic Serve, that's like having a virtual test track for your app.
Okay.
As you're making changes to the code or tweaking the design, you can instantly see those changes reflected in your web browser. It's like having a live feed of your car's performance as you're tuning it up.
So instead of having to like build the entire app every time I make a small change, I can see those updates in real time.
Right.
That's super efficient.
Precisely. It speeds up the development process significantly.
Yeah.
And speaking of efficiency, we haven't talked much about the actual deployment process, you know, getting your app ready for the app stores.
The guy mentioned commands like Ionic build Android and Ionic build iOS.
Yeah.
Those sound like important steps.
Right. Those commands are like taking your car off the test track and sending it to the factory for final assembly and packaging. They bundle all the code and resources and settings you've put together into a neat little file that can be installed on a phone.
Gotcha.
So Ionic Build Android creates an ATK file. That's the format for Android apps.
Right.
And Ionic Build iOS creates an IPA file for iOS.
So it's taking all the parts and turning them into like a finished product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source material dives into some pretty interesting details about the Android release process specifically.
Yeah.
It mentions generating a private key, signing the app, and optimizing it. It sounds a bit complicated, but I think we can break it down.
Yeah, let's demystify that a bit.
Yeah.
What's a private key?
Okay.
And why do I need one?
Think of a private key as your unique digital signature.
Okay.
It's like a tamper-proof seal that proves that your app is genuinely from you.
Okay.
And that it hasn't been messed with.
Okay, so it's like a security measure.
Exactly. It verifies your identity as the app developer. Okay.
And it ensures that nobody else can modify or distribute your app without your permission.
Gotcha.
So the process involves a few tools. Key tool to generate the key, jar signer, to actually sign your app with that key.
Okay.
And Zip-Align to optimize the app package for better performance on Android devices.
So those are all separate tools?
Right.
Okay.
They might sound like a lot, but the guide provides like all the specific commands and steps to follow.
It's like having like a checklist.
Yeah.
To make sure everything's done correctly.
Precisely. Now, the guide also emphasizes the importance of keeping your private key safe and secure.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's pretty important.
It's absolutely crucial. If you lose your private key, you won't be able to update your app on the Google Play Store.
Really?
The Play Store uses your private key to verify that any updates are actually coming from you, the legitimate developer.
Okay, so it's like the master key.
Yeah.
To my app's kingdom.
Okay, I need to guard that carefully. Now, speaking of updates, the guide mentioned something about incrementing the version value in the config.xml file.
Yeah.
For Google Play Store updates.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
That's how you tell the Google Play Store that you've made changes to your app.
Okay.
And that a new version is available.
Oh, right.
Every time you update your app, you need to increase the version number. Think of it like giving your car a new model year.
Okay, so it's a way to keep track of the different versions of my app.
Right.
And let users know that there's like a new and improved version available.
Exactly.
Cool. I know we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dives.
We have.
From understanding EjsS and Ionic to navigating the intricacies of building and customizing.
Right.
And preparing our app for deployment. I want to pause for a second and ask you a question, listener. What's been the most surprising or intriguing part of this process so far? What sparked your curiosity? Take a moment, reflect on what we've covered, and let those thoughts simmer. We'll be back soon to explore the final frontier of this app-building adventure, actually getting your app out into the world.
Yeah, the final frontier.
All right, welcome back, everyone, for the final part of our app-building expedition.
Yeah, the final frontier.
We've come a long way.
I have.
We've explored these EjsS simulations. We've learned how Ionic can turn them into apps.
Yeah.
We've tackled some of the technical hurdles along the way. And now it's finally time to launch our creation out into the world.
Just like watching our rocket ship blast off.
Exactly. In the last part, we were talking about those commands like Ionic build Android, Ionic build iOS, to kind of package our app for different platforms.
Yeah.
But now I'm curious, how do those packages actually get into the hands of users?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What's like the secret sauce to getting our app listed on, places like the Google Play Store and Apple's App Store?
Right. That's where things get a little more involved, but don't worry, we can navigate it together.
Okay.
Let's start with the Google Play Store, since our source material gives us a bit more detail about that process.
Yeah, sounds good. The guide mentioned something about generating a private key and signing the app and optimizing it. Can you walk me through those steps again and explain why they're so important?
Sure thing. Remember how we talked about a private key being like your unique digital signature?
Yeah.
It's all about security and making sure your app can be trusted, both by the App Store and by the people who download it.
Right. It's like putting a tamper-proof seal on a product to guarantee its authenticity.
Precisely. Now, to generate this key, you'll use a tool called Key Tool.
Okay.
It's part of the Java development kit, which you probably already have on your computer if you installed Android Studio.
Okay, so Key Tool creates this digital signature for me. What happens next?
Then you use a tool called Jar Signer
to
actually sign your app package, that APK file we talked about, with your private key. This step is crucial because it tells Android devices and the Google Play Store that your app is legitimate and hasn't been modified by anyone else.
It's like stamping your official seal of approval on the package before you ship it out.
Exactly. And there's one more step in this process: optimization.
Okay.
You use a tool called Zip-Align to, align the contents of your app package in a way that makes it run more efficiently on Android devices.
So it's like organizing the contents of a box so they fit snugly and don't rattle around during shipping.
A perfect analogy. Now remember, the guide really emphasizes the importance of keeping that private key safe and secure. Like, it's the master key to your app's castle.
I wouldn't want anyone else getting their hands on that. What if I lose my private key?
Oh, that's a good question. If you lose your private key, you won't be able to update your app on the Google Play Store. The store uses that key to verify that any updates are coming from the original developer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I really need to guard that key carefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll keep it under lock and key.
Yeah.
Once I've signed and optimized my app, what's the next step? How do I actually get it listed on the Google Play Store?
Right. That part involves creating a developer account on the Google Play console.
Okay.
And going through a submission process. You'll provide information about your app.
Yeah.
Upload your app package, set a price if you want to charge for it, and follow all the guidelines provided by Google. It's like filling out a detailed form and submitting your application to a university.
Okay, so there's a little bit of paperwork involved, but I guess that's to be expected.
Right.
What about the Apple App Store? Is the process similar?
It's similar in concept, but it involves different tools.
Okay.
And a separate developer account on Apple's platform.
Right. So you'll use Xcode to build and sign your iOS app.
Okay.
And then you'll submit it through App Store Connect, which is Apple's equivalent of the Google Play console.
All right. So different platforms, different processes.
Yeah.
But, the overall idea is the same: package, sign, submit.
Yeah.
Now, what about updates? We were talking earlier about incrementing the version number in the config.xml file.
Right.
Can you explain why that's so important?
That's how you tell the app stores,
Okay.
both Google Play and Apple's App Store, that there's a new and improved version of your app available.
Oh, okay.
It's like putting a new edition number on a textbook to show that it's been revised and updated.
So users will see that there's a new version available.
Right.
And they can choose to, update their app.
Exactly. And you can include details about the changes you've made in the update description. It's a good way to keep users engaged
Yeah.
and informed about the latest improvements. Awesome. Well, this has been a truly enlightening journey. We've learned about these EjsS simulations,
Yeah.
delved into the world of Ionic app development, and tackled all those like nitty-gritty details of signing and deploying and updating apps.
Right.
It's really amazing to think that we can take like a physics simulation and turn it into something that people can interact with on their phones.
It really is remarkable, and it speaks to the power of technology
Yeah.
to make learning and exploration accessible to everyone.
And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive, exploring how to turn EjsS physics simulations into Android and iOS apps using the Ionic framework. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. Until next time.